an elite player in Jay. You know, where do you try to replicate that production? Probably going to be
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, obviously, Breen was a great player for us, all ACC guy who took off to the next level, and that's a lot of reps. Over the last 2 years, really, those game reps. And it's hard to, obviously, game reps is hard to replicate in practice. You can't replicate, you know, what's coming in week one from the standpoint of the experience and that type of stuff. But there's guys in the room that's played football too. And I will say this, all the guys in the room, they came here to play football. They came here to play football at a high level. And all the stats and all that walks out of the room with Bruni walking out of the room, none of that stuff carries over anyway. You know, every year to restart, it's a new year. I'm excited about the guys that are in the room and the competition. We've had a really healthy competition. We got a guy like Olsen Pat Henry, Josh Sapp. They've played in big games these last couple of years, and then you got Christian, who redshirted last year, but at the end of the year he played. Had a big block on the kickoff return in the ACC championship, so they know what it looks like. It's just a matter of, you know, I was telling the radio, we have to have the sense of urgency in fall camp of what's coming, because we're playing. They're going to roll out a football game in Death Valley here in a few weeks, in about a month and a half, and they got to be ready to go. And we don't get to, you know, play a couple games and see what it feels like. They got to know as soon as we roll it out there.
You said they all came here to play football.
Yep.
One of them didn't. One of them came here to play basketball.
Right.
What's realistic?
Well, let me start with this. I lost. We had a little running bet upstairs. I thought that would be the first question of the day. Is a basketball player in the room. So I lost.
So unique.
I lost that one. So
What did you lose though?
yeah, just a cup of coffee. So
You knew it was coming.
yeah, I knew it was coming. No, it's fine. You know, Chef, obviously, you know, happy to have Chef, and you know, from a standpoint of, you know his athleticism because you've seen him on the basketball court, and pretty much all the guys in my room have played basketball in some capacity throughout high school or whatever, but you know, obviously not at this type of level. So it's great to have him in a room. He's done a great job of really transitioning himself over from basketball to football. You walk into a brand new room, you walk into a new building, and he's done a really good job of just kind of blending in. That was my advice to him. Hey, kind of blend in, see how the guys work, and you know, just go replicate that. And he's done a really good job of that. But the flip side of it is the tight ends in the room have done a good job of accepting him into the room, showing him our way and our standard and how things operate in there. So it's been really good to see, which I knew there wouldn't be any issues. The guys in the room are great guys. I know Chef's a good guy too. So it's been really cool to kind of see them intertwine, you know, and he's going to be able to use some of his experiences to help our guys currently in the room, and obviously the guys in the room are going to be able to use their experiences to help him. So excited to have him over here.
Can he be impactful? I mean, he didn't have a whole lot of time. It's not like you can develop him for 4 years.
Yeah.
Can he be impactful for this team this year?
You know, we'll see. You know, at the end of the day, from a football standpoint, I'm not sure, you know, what you're getting. I know what you're getting from, you know, size of a body and athleticism of watching him play basketball all these years. And also, I know what you're getting from kind of a mindset, too. You know, Coach Burnell does a great job in his program with his culture and how he pushes those guys. And obviously being in the tournaments and playing at the level that they've played at, you know, I know what you're getting from that standpoint, but, you know, in the summer you don't get to work with these guys hands-on, and that's a big difference in, you know, really basketball and football during the summer. Basketball, they're kind of in their spring practice, and they're working with the guys. We don't get to do that in the summer. So from a standpoint of what's he look like from a football player, I don't know, you know. And we're going to have to find out really, really quick because, like you said, his clock he's at the end of his clock, and it's ticking. So we'll see come August, what it looks like. Obviously, I've talked to him about the heat will be different. That'll be something that'll jump on your back really quick. Wearing equipment versus, there's just a lot of different things he's got to get used to, and that doesn't even include the standpoint of, from a terminology and verbiage and just offensive systems, And then you got to turn around and now you got to understand what defenses are doing at this level too. So, obviously he's behind, but, we're working really hard to get him caught up. And like I said, I think the guys in the room have done a great job of doing the same, not looking as a threat, but looking as a teammate. And they've done, just from what I've heard, they've done a really good job of trying to teach him the why, the how, not only in the workouts, but also when it comes to offensively what we're doing.
For the first time in a long time, you don't have that established, experienced guy in your room. Does that change your approach as a coach?
Not really. A few years ago, it was flipped. Davis Allen was that guy, and Brenny was kind of like your Olsen, a 11P backup, but a 12P starter, So at the end of the day, you got to get, especially at tight end, you got to get multiple guys ready to play anyway, because you're going to be in a 12 personnel world. We'll play some 13 personnel. So it doesn't really change anything from the way we practice, the way we meet, the accountability I hold with them in regards to learning the system, understanding what to do. I think, like I said, the sense of urgency for me is that they have to have a sense of urgency of what that experience factor. We got to get that a lot quicker because there is so many snaps that went out of the room. But I got full confidence. Like I said, Olsen's played in some big games around here. He knows what it looks like. Sapp's played in some big games around here. He's the old guy in the room. He knows what it looks like. And then Christian at the end of the year, once his red shirt was done and we could play him some, he played, whether special teams or a little bit offensively. So I just got to make sure that my biggest job right now is just getting them to understand that you don't have. It's different when you're preparing and all the pressure is not on you. All the from a snap standpoint, from a rep standpoint. So I got to get them to understand that that pressure, that feeling is going to be a little bit different. At the end of the day, football's football, right? And be confident in what you're doing. But I will say this, with Brenny playing as many snaps as he has over the last couple of years, and the experience that he had, I was able, from a practice standpoint, you had to get him as an older guy. You didn't, practice was important in certain parts of practice, but in other parts of practice, I could get some of those reps onto some of the younger guys and get them kind of on a faster track of getting on the field, knowing what to do, how to execute, all those things. So from a practice standpoint, these guys have got a lot more reps than you would think. From a game standpoint is where you're just limited in that experience from last year.
Brenny was that safety valve for Cade in a lot of ways. How do these guys gain his trust in a month? Yeah. Or is that something that maybe they've worked on over the summer and in spring practice?
That's a good question. It's not. Brenny was such a he'd been here a while and he's a big target. So I think some of the safety valve comes from that too. You got a big target. You got range of motion is a little bit different. You can miss, and he can make it right. But the flip side is they did have a lot of time together. But we're not just rolling out the balls here in a couple weeks, and that's the first time Cade's ever thrown to Olsen, Christian, Sapp, whatnot, all spring. Now Olsen wasn't out there because of the shoulder injury, but all spring they got some time together. This summer in skills and drills, they've been spending time together. So, there's got to be. He's probably, the trust factor is probably higher with a guy that played a ton of reps, right? But that's not going to change the fact that these guys are going to play at a high level, and that eventually, it'll all work itself out.
Coach Richardson didn't realize that the possibility of Ian Shefflin being in a room was real, and I know you haven't coached him yet, but what about him excites you about coaching him?
Yeah, I'm excited about everybody in the room. Chef's a guy that is coming into the room now, but like I said, Olsen, Pat Henry, and Christian, and Sapp. You got Banks Pope that's played a bunch of football here in 13 personnel type sets for us, and then we moved Charlie Johnson over from receiver. He's put on some good weight, and then Logan Brooklyn is our freshman that's come in. So the room it's like I said, it's a healthy competition that's been going on in the room this spring and going into the summer, and Chef's done a good job of just kind of being a part of that and jumping in and trying to figure out things. From the standpoint of when did I know it was coming, it was kind of tossed around out there, after basketball season was over, and then he had some time where he needed to think about, what his future basketball looked like, and then what this possibility and opportunity looked like, and from there you just kind of let him be with his family and make some decisions, and eventually it's either he's going to do it or he's not going to do it. He's chosen to do it, and then he's chosen to do it, and he's got to be in 100%, and he's done that. So I'm excited about the room with all the guys, and obviously bringing in a new guy in is just going to add to it.
What about him physically translates well to football and also the intangibles, his competitiveness?
Yeah, I mean you can't size is size, and obviously the size that he brings into the room is different than probably what's in the room right now. He'll be the biggest tight end in the room. And then, like I said earlier, obviously playing in Brad's program and playing as a freshman and for 4 years, and in the ACC, you obviously know the competition. He's got to have a competitive side to him. And I think the one thing that's probably left out the most is he loves Clemson. And given, he's got a unique situation where he can stay at Clemson and continue to be an ambassador for this university. And I think that's really cool that he's chose to come across the parking lot and continue to do that.
Coach Richardson, Richmond Weaver, good to see you again. Yes, and must be a competition between you and Coach Grisham, best beard right now.
Yeah, well, I always win that, but he's probably got the better hair, I would say, but I've got the cheaper barber bill. So here we are.
In all seriousness, have you had a moment to be able to reflect back now that you're entering your, I think, 10th year here at Clemson, lifelong Clemson fan, and the journey that you've been going through, as an offensive analyst to now your position?
No, it's been, I think when I kind of sit down and think about those things is we get a little bit of, we just came back in, yesterday into the office, but we get a few weeks off and you just kind of get out of the building. And for me, I'm on the lake, and that brings back, childhood memories. And then when you go out of town and you go places and, you may have the ball on or whatever, and just, people come up to you, and I think for those few weeks is when it starts sinking back in. You're at Clemson, and this is where you kind of, spent your whole childhood. But then you just go back to work, and
the grind.
Yeah, and you go into the grind, and no matter what, I've always, my philosophy in coaching is always leave the place better than I found it. And you never know when your time's going to be over, whether you're coaching high school, whether you're coaching college, or whether you're coaching in the NFL. You never know when that's going to end. So for me, I've tried to leave over the last 10 years. I've tried to leave everything that I've touched here better than I found it. But obviously this place is special to me. It's special to my family. And anytime I get a chance to have them here with me, my mom, my dad, have them here with me and get them. It's really cool to see them to get to experience this, knowing that they've lived here their whole life and just been a part of it forever. It's really cool for them, for them to see kind of the joy that they have and living through me here at Clemson.
With your step, you've been around a while. Why is he ready to take the next step? What does that next step look like for Josh Sapp?
Yeah, you know, Sapp is had a great. Sapp every year has gotten better. Sapp every year has taken what I've asked him to do, and he's serious about improving that. And Sapp's always going to be, and he, you know, that's one thing with Sapp is he's probably the most athletic guy in the room, but he's an undersized tight end. So he has to use his athleticism. He has to use certain things to overcome the size part of it, which he does a great job with. But he's done a really good job just transforming his body and getting it to play in the box as a tight end. He's already great in space, but he's done a great job with his body, and he loves football. You know, he loves football. He loves Clemson, and he's very unselfish. You know, he wants to win. You know, and I think he's ready to take that next step just because it's time. You know, just for him, he's out of time. You know, he's getting to the end. He's on the back end of his career, where Logan is on the front end, so it looks different. And that's really cool too, to see these guys go from one end to the other, from a standpoint of just how their bodies change, but how their minds change, how the timing of their careers change. What was maybe important as a freshman is not as important as a junior or senior. So I'm really excited about him and the step that he had a great spring. And like I said, the competition in the room is what the exciting part of, you know, everybody wants to ask the questions about the lack of experience and what's walking out of the room. And I want to talk about what's in the room. I want to talk about the excitement of these guys and how hungry and humble they are and how eager they are to go play football. They came, again, I'll repeat, these guys were highly recruited guys, and they chose to come to Clemson. They chose to come to Clemson for multiple reasons, right? So there's some on the field and some off the field that they chose to come here. But at the end of the day, they came to Clemson to play football for Clemson. And they've been working their tails off to show what they can do. But they also know I'm not giving out reps. I'm not giving out playing time. Their work, their effort, what they do mentally and physically is what's going to earn them the playing time. It's going to earn them the reps. So I'm excited about what's coming, about the future of the room and what we're going to roll out there this season at the tight end position.
This time last year, you guys liked Jahan Christian a lot. What's different about that player right now today from last year?
You know, just another year. Just, you know, he had a year of redshirting, but that's a year of your, you know, in the weight room. You know, that's a year of adapting to and adjusting to what a college life looks like on the field and off the field. You know, for him, he didn't come in early. He was a great basketball player in high school, so he didn't come in early. So, you know, by the time you get here mid-June, you know what I mean? Like, a guy that's been here for 2 or 3 years, it looks different. A guy that came in January versus a guy that comes in June, like, it feels different. So for him, you can just see things have slowed down mentally for him. They've slowed down lifestyle for him from a college standpoint. He's just wired different too. I mean, he's a humble guy, and he just works. Like, that's he knows what he's good at and what he needs to work on. He works his tail off, and he doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. He don't care who's getting the credit. I mean, he's just a great teammate, a great player, and he's going to be a special one if he stays on this path that he's on.
What are his strengths, and then what are his strengths, and then can he bust through to that?
Yeah. No, I mean, he's got everything that you're looking for in a tight end. He's got a mixture of all of it, and then again, the size he brings. He's got the size that they're looking for at the next level. So, from a strength standpoint, really, really smart. Again, really hard worker, and he's one of those guys. You correct something, it's probably fixed on the next rep. He's not one of those guys you have to continue to tell the same thing over and over. So now I can move on to something else that we need to fix or whatever. And I mean, he's one of those guys. He stays after practice and does extra work. He's over with Bina and the whole group, you know, working on his body, pays attention, you know, what he puts in his body. He's just he's the total package when you're looking for a football player at this level and potentially taking that next step.
And then Logan looks the part, has the pedigree. What does he need to do, and how has he assimilated to college life?
Yeah, I mean, he came in early, which is good, you know. I don't, you know, personally, I don't care if they come early. Some guys are ready to come early, some aren't. Some guys, like, I love to recruit the multiple sport athlete, so I don't think it's fair for a guy to, you know, I'm in love with the multiple sport athlete, but now take you away from the multiple sports so you can come in and roll early. So that's a family decision, and he did a great job of coming in, but for him, it's like, you know, spring ball looks different than August fall camp. Spring season looks different than end season. So just like Christian coming in, when he came in, and Logan coming in, it's all that first year. I mean, it's all just learning, understanding, adjusting. But he's done a great job, and yeah, he looks the part, you know. And that's the hard part in this profession is you look at some guys, and all these guys look like grown men. But again, how do they compute, you know, their knowledge? And at this level, transitioning from high school to college, obviously you got to learn a new offensive system, but you also, there's another step with defenses and defensive recognition, and that's really difficult. That's more difficult usually for the high school kid transitioning to college than usually like the offensive system is. So he's done a great job. I'm really excited about his future.
Go ahead.
When you're talking about these guys stepping into a different role, those younger guys, how important is it that they've had the same quarterback, same coordinator, head coach, everything to make that transition?
Yeah, I mean, for you know, from a tight end standpoint, you know, Olsen's had the same tight ends coach, and I recruited him, you know. Christian the same way, you know. Sapp as a freshman, I was the tight ends coach, so they understand the good, the bad, and the ugly that I'm bringing to the table and how I'm going to do things. And the flip side is I understand theirs too. So I think, yeah, that makes just life a whole lot easier when we can move on to other things, not getting to learn each other, because at the end of the day, we're in a relationship business here. And I have a great relationship with those guys. They're like my kids. You know, we have some good days, we have some bad days. I love them every day. And they don't have to relearn any of that type of stuff. Offensively, going into another year offensively, it's the same thing. Now we can kind of go 3.0 version versus we were in 1.0 or whatever, you know. And then same thing, obviously, with head coach, your culture doesn't change. None of that stuff changes, so you're just constantly, you know, having to learn things. You know how team meetings are going to be. You know how a Monday practice, a Tuesday. You know how Friday night before the game is, because coach is coach. And he's been here for a long time, and he's done it at a high level, and they trust because they know what he's done. So it's the relationship part, love and trust that's built into that relationship, which is why when you can keep things together like you talked about, you got a chance of being really special as a group, as a team, and then obviously as a program.
Sorry if you've already been asked this, but what are reasonable expectations for you?
It's only the third time I've been asked it. I don't know. You know, at the end of the day, like I said earlier, basketball in the summer looks different than football in the summer. We don't get to go practice with the guys like spring ball, and basketball's more hands-on in the summer because of the way their season is. So I know what he brings to the table from a size standpoint. I know what he brings to the table from athleticism, watching him play basketball. But I haven't been able to work with him as a football, so I don't know what he can do as a football player. I know that we're going to coach him the same way that I coach the rest of the guys in the room and have the same sense of urgency. But the other side of that is he's got to have, and that's a conversation that we've had too, is he's got to have the same sense of urgency too. You know, and what does he want out of this opportunity? And so I'm excited about having him, but like expectations, we got to go play football, and he's got to slowly groom himself into that. Day one of basketball practice and day one of football practice is going to look a little bit different with heat, a helmet, shoulder pad. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of, just like the question previous, there's a lot of adjustment that he's got to make that has nothing to do with football plays, those type of things. But he's done a great job of getting into the room and trying to figure it out. So I'm excited about having him.
Another year with Coach Riley. What does
Yeah.
Clemson Offense 3.0 look like? What are some things that you want to
The beauty of this offense is it doesn't, you're not going in every year and drastically changing it. 3.0, 2.0, 1.0, it all kind of looks the same. It's kind of the experience of the players in it to where things doesn't, they can go out and play a team, get in a situation. The defense doesn't really surprise them based off the play call that we got, or the situation doesn't surprise them. So I would say you take some of that, lack of, I wouldn't say lack of not knowing what to do, but certain defensive situations, whatever, that could jump out there for the first time, and you're like, oh, wait a second. Now it's like, oh yeah, we run this play, we've run it versus that 1,000 times, we're good. Or I've already seen that style defense trying to stop this play, because the plays really don't change for us. It's the personnel. Now we can group different. You got tight ends, receivers, you got running backs, you got some rooms that's got some great depth. Now how do you take the personnel of those rooms and make the offense look different without changing the offense? So I would say that would be 3.0 versus what you've seen in the past. Is going to be more from that standpoint, not new plays.
How has Christian kind of developed from his freshman year into his sophomore season?
Say it again.
How has Christian Obendecourt kind of developed from his freshman season to his second season?
Yeah, we'll see on the field what he does in his second year, but he's done a great job this offseason of just preparing himself to take that next step physically, mentally. He's done a great job, so I'm really excited to see what it looks like year two from year one.
You expecting Olsen to be fully ready to go?
Yeah, he's cleared. He's good. He got cleared this summer, so he'll be 100%. With a shoulder, you just don't want to rush back from that. So he's had a great summer, and obviously he's one of those. You got to hold him back. So he's really eager to get on the field and play football again. So yeah, he'll be 100%.